Welcome to WOPTalk, folks. Hi, Diego.
Robert, how you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. How's it going?
Good. Today, our show is going to be a little bit different. We'll still touch up on the sports and so forth, but Robert decided to join us, and
For once.
and it's about time. And folks, if you don't know, this is Robert Ferrantelli, our technical guy. We call him the technical guy as opposed to technical director. We don't want to pay him, so we call him
Bastards.
the technical guy. You know. And so, hey, how was your week, Robert? What's going on?
My week wasn't bad, to be totally honest with you. We had some, the weekend yesterday.
Vicious weekend.
Round 4. Can we call it round 4?
Round 4, it was an interesting round 3, I think it is. Round 3, and it was an interesting round 3, the beginning. You know, I want to touch on that.
Yep.
I read an article this week off the net, and it was from bodog.com. And already there were placing bets or suggesting bets to be placed on a Pittsburgh-Chicago final. And the semifinals hadn't even begun yet. I found that odd and strange. And could it be possible that Bodog is already trying to get bets to go on when the teams haven't even been decided yet? And
well, listen, man, take a look at the paper, Journal de Montréal. Most of the experts, most of the journalists and so-called experts that are writing in the Journal are basically predicting the same thing.
Prediction.
No, I know.
Prediction
in terms of
is
bets,
one
I
thing.
understand what you mean.
But you know, you're telling me I predict Pittsburgh,
Sure.
Chicago to make the finals. It's one thing, and it's a pretty decent prediction to make. But we'll talk about predictions or what we think is going to happen as we go along into the show towards the end of it.
Sure.
Let's pick up on some of the events that took place in NHL this week. One being, are you surprised by the firing of John Tortorella?
Listen, I always thought the guy was a good coach.
Right.
And if you look at what he did with the Rangers, I mean,
What did he do with the Rangers?
the fact that they didn't make the playoffs for quite a while, they made it into the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Right, so.
I mean, these are guys, that always got superstars.
Was it
and
4 years he's been with the team? 4 years, 5 years he's been with the team? And they've made the playoffs, yeah. But, here's the thing you need to question.
Why? Because he benched, one of the mistakes he made, and that's probably the
clincher.
What basically...
Two key mistakes that were made, Robert, during this playoffs when it comes
Brad
to John
Richards.
Tortorella.
Benching him, healthy scratch.
The first mistake, and I had mentioned it in our second round preview of the playoffs, was the incident where what's his name, McDonough.
McDonough, who used to belong to the Montreal Canadiens.
Big
mistake.
And big mistake. We traded him for that bald-headed eagle, Mr. Scott Gomez.
Yeah.
Where he kept him on towards the end of the game in the overtime for 2 minutes straight that ultimately led to a Washington victory in the first round. And I said John Tortorella will be fired for that. Should have been fired for that. But the second mistake, you mentioned it, and that was the one mistake that I think everyone is still puzzled and there's no logic to it. Brad Richards. And what would you take of it? Why would you bench a Brad Richards?
That's a good question. But they did win that game. Well, he benched them twice, right? They did win that game.
Fine.
I mean, they were on the ropes, man. They were like losing 3-0 at that point. 3-0 in terms of the series,
Right,
I mean.
right.
They did end up winning that game. So, I mean, maybe... Listen, there's a lot of things we don't know. And, in terms of what's going on the ice, it's one thing.
Why not bench Rick Nash? He scored only one goal throughout the whole playoffs.
That's a good question.
I mean,
and can we blame only the coach?
No. Well, hold on.
I mean, all these superstars.
We all agree, but here's the problem.
How does Rick Nash, a guy who makes, I don't know how, God knows how much money.
What is it, $4 or $5 million a year plus?
Supposed to be a superstar.
But
does a team full of superstars
win a championship?
Well, look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh yesterday, perfect example.
Well, that's one game we can't determine anything
I
yet.
agree, but
we can't determine anything yet. We'll touch on that.
Yeah.
But before we go there, this is the point I want to make about John Tortorella. Here's a question that you need to ask yourself. Brad Richards won a Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning under John
Tortorella,
right.
Yes.
And here's the problem. You got a Rick Nash that throughout his whole history so far as an NHL player has only scored one playoff goal. And throughout the 2013 playoff season, he only managed to score that one goal that we're mentioning. And he hasn't done anything since or before. Obviously, he's not going to do anything after for now.
Agreed.
Come next year, we'll see. Yet, Brad Richards, he won a Stanley Cup for you in Tampa Bay, as I repeat myself. The man comes in with immense experience. So is the question then, did John Tortorella just at the end of his tenure as a coach just lose himself and not necessarily understand
But what does a
who
man
the
do?
players?
What does a man do? What can he do when you're on the ropes? You're about to get eliminated. You're going into Game 4 and you're losing three games. What the hell are you supposed to do?
Okay, here's my
Whip
question.
them?
Hold on a second. There is something to be said about
Caress
that.
them?
Well, hold on.
By the way, dude,
Thank you very
I never knew you had this ring. He's got a ring. Look at the ring. Sorry. Focus.
Focus.
Oh, Robert's not behind the camera. I wonder who's taking care of the camera.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
John Tortorella, as a coach, should understand his puzzles, should understand where the pieces have to fall in. And one of the biggest problems that you have, now here's the difference between John Tortorella and the New York Ranger, and then you take Balsma with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Talent per talent, Pittsburgh has more talent, more superstars on that team than the New York Rangers do. The New York Rangers may have 1 or 2, maybe even 3 games that are very, very big up there. But if you take the Pittsburgh Penguins for who they are and how they are structured, there's the difference. Balsma understands the structure. Should Glenn Sather be fired? And the answer to that one might be absolutely. I don't necessarily always want to blame John Tortorella.
But you said the good thing, talent. Talent-wise, you're absolutely right. I mean, they have Crosby, Sidney Crosby,
Right.
considered to be the best player in the world.
They also have Malkin.
You also have Malkin.
But you also have...
And yet, Balsma won the Stanley Cup because it was actually given to him on a silver platter.
No, it
Who was coaching the
Michel Therrien.
Michel Therrien.
But again, Michel Therrien, back in the day as a Pittsburgh coach, had already begun to lose his dressing room prior to the playoffs of that season. And Ray Shero saw it right away. And there was an equal reaction to it. And the consequence to that reaction was the firing of Michel Therrien, which led to the ultimate.
I agree, but the thing is, dude, I'm willing to bet money that the New York Rangers don't even want us to win a Stanley Cup.
Oh, hold on a second. Wait a minute. No, hold on a second.
I mean, listen, year after year, they keep on dishing out money to get all these superstars,
Right.
and they never make it.
Right.
The last time they won a Stanley Cup was the year right after the Montreal Canadiens in
1994.
1994.
Right.
What the fuck is wrong? It's too easy. I mean, the first thing, the first head that falls is who? Usually the coach. Look at what's happening in Vancouver. They fire Vigneault.
That's a bad firing.
Who needs to get fired? To be honest with you,
That's Gillis who should
exactly
who
the
should
general
have his head
manager.
chopped. I mean, we have. Well, I was just going to get to that point.
Yeah.
So here's the question: John Tortorella gets fired. Should be John Tortorella alone taking the responsibility for the demise of the Rangers in the playoffs?
I don't think so.
Or should it be Glenn Sather for just once again just completely just thinking about the marketing aspect of the New York Rangers through MSG and the insane amount of revenue that they make as a result of it through their private television stations and so forth that go on with it. However, the fact of the matter is this: John Tortorella, unfortunately, was not able to show Glenn Sather that he was right and Sather was wrong. And so John Tortorella pays the price.
Somebody had to go.
Alain Vigneault takes the hit for a clear violation
Gillis.
of stupidity
From
from a
Gillis.
GM like Gillis.
Exactly.
And putting a good goalie like Roberto Luongo, whom I don't think is really capable to bring you to the promised land either, but he is a good goalie.
We gotta talk about this.
We'll talk about that at some
Yes,
point.
at
right
some
now,
point.
not
But
tonight.
you know.
Absolutely, I know where you're going with that one.
Yeah.
Then we take the hiring of Patrick Roy that I said Patrick Roy will never be hired as a coach in the NHL. And it turns out that the Colorado Avalanche this week hired him as head coach and VP of operations of the team.
I'm willing to bet that Patrick Roy would have been the coach of the Montreal Canadiens had it not been for the fact that he wanted too much. I mean, he wanted more control in terms, more of a say when it came to, I mean, they gave him VP with Colorado.
Right.
And that's probably the only reason why they didn't hire him.
Well, here's the
Do
problem.
I think that Patrick Roy will be a good coach in the NHL? Maybe not on his first year.
No, he won't be a good coach in the NHL.
I think he will be a
I'll
good
tell
coach.
you why.
Sure.
There's a temperament that follows.
Sure.
Here's the problem that we have in the NHL today, but in all pro sports, and that is the big name comes with a big contract, it comes with big respect. And John Tortorella, if I go back to John Tortorella, clearly you saw him on the bench, how he constantly raised his voice, constantly demeaning the players on the bench, completely derogative manner of speaking. I mean, the man has asked through through NBC, you know, what he thought about the goal scored by Callahan, and he answers, it's a goddamn good goal. This is NBC we're talking about. We all know what it's all about. We all know what it's all about when it comes to NBC and American television. You have to really mind your words, munch them carefully before you utter them.
It's unfortunate. I think it's bullshit.
So we
frankly.
look at this. And
Thank God for the internet. We can say
Absolutely.
fuck.
And fuck them. And
Fuck
so we
you,
look at
fuck
this.
him, fuck everybody.
Listen, I know you're horny and you want to get laid, but let's stick to the fucking topic.
All right, sorry, I got off topic.
Right? So here's the thing. So we covered that. Bottom line is this. There were firings that I think were unjust, Alain Mignot being one of them. There were firings that I think was just, John Tortorella being one of them. But I also think there are two key players in two organizations that absolutely should have gotten fired and doesn't look like they're going to get fired, that being Gillis of the Vancouver Canucks and Glenn Seaver of the New York Rangers. And we'll see what comes with that.
Listen, if he hasn't gotten fired by now, man, I
Right.
think he's going to die there.
So did you watch any of the games yesterday?
Frankly, no. I saw highlights. Listen, Boston cannot be... what I've seen of Boston throughout the whole series is that they're just getting better and better.
I agree with that.
As time progresses, they're just getting better and better.
I agree with that.
You know what, man? They're going to give Pittsburgh a run for their money. I'll be honest with you. They're a hard-hitting team. Same thing. Okay, LA lost against Chicago, but Chicago with that goalie they have, Quick, who does steal games, by the way.
Quick is LA.
I'm sorry?
Quick is with LA.
Sorry.
Yes.
What did I say?
You said Chicago.
Chicago. No, I was talking about LA. Jonathan Quick with LA, who's an amazing goalie. He does steal games for you.
Absolutely.
And they're definitely a hard-hitting team.
Yes.
They're a very, very hard-hitting team. And let me tell you,
but not as fast as Chicago.
they're not as fast, but they're hard-hitting, and Quick is on the ball when it comes to saving that puck.
Right.
I don't know for sure. I have a hard time predicting. It's beautiful hockey. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're lucky to have hockey like this.
There are 4 teams that won the 4 Stanley Cups in the last 4 years.
True.
First time I believe that's ever happened.
That was a nice observation.
And that's a great observation from not only my part but from everyone else that wrote it.
Yeah.
And Joey had mentioned it as well, and we have to give him credit. Yeah, and I think that's something fantastic to see. I'm curious to see what I saw last night between the Bruins and the Penguins. I saw a Bruins team that's just determined. And if I may use this expression, brotherhood. I think they're the only team that exemplifies brotherhood. These guys believe in each other as a family. They don't believe in each other as superstars. I don't think there's any one player on that Bruins team that wakes up in the morning, says, I am a superstar.
Agreed.
Unlike a Crosby, unlike a Malkin, a Gilna, a Morrow. But then I go to Pittsburgh. And here's a question I like to ask everybody.
Who played in Nuts in Pittsburgh?
Vaucoun. And he played well. I mean, they lost nothing, but he played well. It's just the way the game went, you know.
Sure.
And Boston took it to Pittsburgh. They didn't give Pittsburgh any room to skate, which is what I think Brian Sutter is going to do with the Los Angeles Kings come the next game against Chicago. I think they're just going to block Chicago.
They're going to block, and they're going to hit them.
Because they're a bigger-sized team
They're
than
a bigger-sized
Chicago.
team.
And I think Kopitar will come along and show his stuff coming into the next game.
What's another guy we didn't draft?
Nobody talks about Kopitar. This guy during the season is sleeping.
He was drafted in the same year. He was drafted in the same year, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was drafted in the same year as Price.
Right. But Gainey went with Price.
We had the opportunity and we were always talking about it, having a big power forward in Montreal. Never succeeded, and yet we had the opportunity of drafting Kopitar.
But Kopitar would have never succeeded with the Montreal Canadiens.
Why is that? Nobody succeeds with the Montreal Canadiens.
And I'll tell you why. There are two factors that need to be understood with the Montreal Canadiens, whether anybody likes it or not. One of them being the Montreal Canadiens have a philosophy of complete defense as opposed to offense. Kopitar is not that player. And the Montreal Canadiens emphasize too much on defense. In 1986, something happened. This great goalie, young kid, 19 years old, comes into play. And he wins the Stanley Cup for the Montreal Canadiens, named Patrick Roy. 1993, they won the Stanley Cup only because of Patrick Roy.
If it wasn't for him, man, let me tell you.
They had some talent, but it was really Patrick Roy. Since then, the Montreal Canadiens have adopted that they need this great goalie behind in the nets in order for something to happen. So they focus so much on defense that they've completely, over the past 20 years, completely neglected about going after offensive players, big offensive players that are out there. Kopitar would never succeed because Montreal really want to epitomize the two-way game, back and forth. Look at Corelli and what he's done with Boston. He's not after the fancy dirty kind of player. Like Corelli may tell you that he wants a Malkin or he wants a Crosby on his team, but he could care less. But he wants 14 Warriors, 18 Warriors, 23 Warriors on that team.
And Boston has those Warriors.
Absolutely.
I think let's talk about these predictions. I truly think that in the East, they're not going to sweep Pittsburgh, but I truly believe that maybe in 6 or 7, Boston will get through Pittsburgh.
And I will not argue with you on that. I'm an avid hater.
As much as I hate Boston.
You know, for you folks
I mean,
listening,
being Montreal Canadian fan.
absolutely, we hate Boston Bruins.
Yeah,
We hate
them.
To be
However,
honest.
yeah.
We have to be honest. That's a damn good team out there.
It is a good team.
It's a team that's well structured, with a clear-cut direction, and they understand on what has to take place and how has to take place.
And if I were general manager of the Montreal Canadiens and I had the opportunity of getting a guy like Lucic on my team,
Go for it, 100%.
You know, and Marchand.
I put Lucic. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying, but I put Lucic in the same category as a Maurice Richard. And let me explain. Maurice Richard was tenacious,
Now you're
vicious.
you're
Hold on a
overdoing
second.
it, man.
He was tenacious. He was ferocious. He had a resolve to win at all games. Lucic does not have the talent to score the goals that Maurice Richard scored back in the day.
You stand corrected.
But
Okay,
he, as a determined soul of a team, Lucic, I put him in exactly the same category as a Maurice
You know,
Richard.
I hate when he plays against the Montreal Canadiens, but as much as I hate him, I like the player.
Absolutely.
I think he's a great player. I think, you know, I've seen him on interviews.
Yeah.
Smart guy.
Well-spoken.
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 You know, hey, what can I say?
And so that takes care of the playoffs, so we'll see what comes about of that.
Yeah.
As for the rest, we had a good week. The weather's been kind of crappy. Last night we went through a vicious rainstorm. This morning we wake up to another one.
But it's good because, you know, this humid weather gives me volume.
But if I think back in February with 40 centimeters of snow, minus 20-degree weather, and then I think to today with 31 degrees and humid coming out of our zoo, I left my T-top open on my car with the rain of last night and the rain of this morning.
And an aquarium in the car.
And I went to sit down there, and I'm sitting on wet pants and wet undies right now. I got to tell you, that's nice and cool when you're in bed with a beautiful woman.
He's getting
Not
that.
so cool.
That's right. He's getting that not so fresh feeling.
I got mushrooms growing in
That's
places
right.
they shouldn't grow.
I can smell them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Please don't do that again.
No, I won't. I won't.
So that's what's been taking place, and you know. We'd like to think on, excuse me, Joey, how many minutes we have left? Because we're sort of lost. We got 10 minutes, 12 minutes to go? All right, 12 minutes to go. So, let's go 12 minutes.
I got to give these guys a training.
Yeah, absolutely, because we've lost our train of thought
That's
because of it, and you see us sort of jumping and wavy all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Right?
thanks, man.
So thank you very much for calling yourself Bacala. Joey, I think you are one, and we appreciate it. Okay, cool. So, what do you think the next move for the Montreal Canadiens should be?
Listen, if I look back at the season we had, we finished in second place. But, you know, is it a true second place? We only had 48 games in the season. But, again, all the other teams in the NHL had the same amount of games in the regular season play. What I saw in terms of playoffs, we got a lot of injuries.
Okay.
A lot of those injuries are due to size, unfortunately.
Right.
I think what we need to do is beef the player the teammates up.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
personnel.
Right.
I mean, when I say beef them up, also get talent at the same time.
Right.
I mean, you can't just fucking throw in. I mean, we can see with that big brown raisin there. What's his name?
Big brown raisin.
The fighter that we had there.
Oh, yeah, Larocque.
Larac.
Yeah.
I mean,
Larocque, same
Larac.
shit to me. Larocque. Rocco Vicino de Gaza was there too.
Rocco Vicino de Gaza.
You know, and Pepe Staminga was there too.
That's
By the
right.
way, Pepe Staminga is Joe Cocker. Rocco Vicino de Gaza is Rock
Rock
Voisin.
Voisin.
Okay.
But no,
And then of course, lately the Montreal Canadiens over the past 20 years have been played. And I love this character, but they've been played by Calidro Marot. And for those who don't know who's Calidro Marot, it's Charlie Brown, the Sicilian version. and is walking around with completely lost in nature. I think the Habs have to address a few issues that I think everybody knows. Size. Number one. Number two, goaltending, but more importantly, regardless of whether it's size and goaltending and the mixture of both, I think the Montreal Canadiens have to address one major issue, and that is go out and get the best player for the job.
Well said. And you know what's cool about this coming draft is we have how many picks? 9 picks?
I believe it's 9 over three rounds. I believe it's either 6 or 9
picks, which is wonderful. Yeah. I mean, we got these so
we got leverage.
We definitely have leverage. Now, what's the pool like?
Pool is actually very good this year. It's not great.
It's not a great pool.
It's not the best of pools we've ever had, but
no. However,
surprises, listen, this is where teams like Boston will excel. And this is where the number of choices the Montreal Canadiens have will excel for them and might actually beat out on the Boston Bruins. Why do I mention the Boston Bruins? Because the Boston Bruins in a pool like this is ideal for them. They don't go out looking for players that are talented, that can snipe shot from the blue line into the top corner. They're looking for players that are going to take a bloody nose to get into that top corner, to get into that front net, and put that puck in.
Absolutely.
And this is the year for that. So I think that the talented players, they're there. They're good players, good young players. There's a couple coming out of Quebec that are really good. Again, I wouldn't put them up there with the Crosbys of any nature or of any sort, but I think Montreal can capitalize on getting the big size that we're talking about, that carry enough talent to make a difference in any given game. I think they're going to be able to pick up the 1 or 2 players that would replace a Moen, which needs to be replaced.
The guy's totally fucking
Armstrong,
useless.
With all due respect to Armstrong, I think he's a great little kid, but he's not going to...
What a surprise Prust was, eh? What a surprise.
Complete Prust.
I mean, we were laughing about, the
Bergevin
acquisitions prior to the beginning of the season.
Absolutely.
And we didn't know enough about the guy. But let me tell you, man, the guy's a lion.
Between Prust...
Not the biggest guy in the world, but he's tough. And he knows how to play hockey.
Absolutely. And I think, Robert, at the end of the day, I'd rather have another 3 or 4 Prust on my team.
Sure.
No question about it. No question about it. Yeah. And so I think we've covered that much, and we've covered the playoffs. Become a little bit more. They become a little bit more difficult to talk about because there's only 4 teams left, and I mean. There's only 4 teams left. There's only so much you can really talk about. I think once the second and the third game are played in each series,
there'll be
probably much more material to speak about. Because right now we're really jumping on ends.
And let's not forget one thing. I mean, we're talking about 4 Stanley Cup champions.
Which at the end of the day,
at the same time.
We really shouldn't be able to criticize. We shouldn't be criticizing.
You can't criticize any one of those teams.
You can criticize them.
They know what it means to win the cup.
You can criticize once it happens. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we really need to see what happens in the next 2-3 games to be able to determine that,
Sure, absolutely.
We want you to know that we're going to be lining up some episodes and getting more as the draft approaches on June 30th. We're going to detail more, not necessarily team by team in terms of what they need and what they don't need. I leave that to TSN and all the other experts out there to do that. I want to focus on the NHL. I want to focus on the finances behind the NHL. I want to focus on the CBA and how it's going to affect the draft and how it's going to affect the free agency as we move towards the deadline on July 1st.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what I want to focus on. I want to focus on how many hookers they get after every game, how many Zgrits.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question that you need to ask. And by the way, we're still looking for that cougar. And
actually, Joy just told us that we got 5 minutes left, so we're gonna wrap it up soon. But
all right.
Listen, dude, it was a pleasure.
Robert, you know what? It's been my first episode with you in a long time,
and I hope
I'd like to do more of it.
I rather not, but no.
I'd like to do more of it. And
just kidding.
Just one more thing, folks. I just want to say, please. Go into our website, or not necessarily our website, but on our YouTube, and send us as many comments as you'd like to send.
And by the way, this is lucky number 13. So enjoy the episode, lucky number 13. We got 13 episodes with this one included.
And our website should be up and running within the next week or so. Gabby Inetti has done an excellent job. He takes care of
Yep.
the internet and websiting when it comes to it. Joey as well, we want to give him a lot of credit. He helps out with the IT, the behind scenes.
Absolutely.
When it comes to software. Once again, for you, want to thank you very much. Your technical help behind the
Thank
camera.
you, and let's thank
Walter.
Cafe Milano.
And once again, Cafe Milano,
Milano.
before we sign off, Cafe Milano always.
Great
a real
sandwiches, great
pleasure.
coffee, and yeah.
The atmosphere, the women, the men, everyone is beautiful in here. Thank you very much, Matteo, Marco. It's been a pleasure. And
Thank
we'll
you.
sign off. Have yourself a remaining great day to the weekend. We'll see each other next week. Good night. Take care.
Signing off.